The harsh winds of Adros, 3 whipped across the barren wasteland, cutting through the thick, dark clouds that perpetually hung over the planet's scarred surface. The planet was cold, uninviting, and the people who inhabited it were equally distant. It was a place where hope went to die, where the promise of a better tomorrow seemed as distant as the stars themselves. For Rian, a human engineer sent by Earth to assist in a mining colony project, Adros 3 was just another assignment. He had seen many cold, desolate worlds, but this one was different. The loneliness here was oppressive, a weight that pressed on your chest with every breath. The workers, a mix of humans and aliens, were overworked and underpaid. And yet, despite the hardship, they carried on. Rian's heart was heavy. His personal life was a wreck. After the loss of his wife, who had died in an accident back on Earth, he had thrown himself into his work. The pain of her death still haunted him, a constant ache in his chest. He had closed himself off from the world, a man broken beyond repair, and Adros 3, with its icy winds and barren landscape, seemed to mirror his fractured soul. One evening, as Rian was finishing his day's work in the engineering bay, a commotion outside caught his attention. He stepped out into the harsh wind to find a group of workers gathered around something, or someone. He approached, curiosity gnawing at him. In the center of the crowd knelt an alien woman, her face twisted in pain. She was one of the native species, the Feralians, tall, with smooth, silvery skin that shimmered under the dim light of the mining base. Her long black hair was tangled, her clothes torn, and her arm, it was broken, bent at an unnatural angle. She gritted her teeth, trying to hold back the screams that threatened to escape her. Rian pushed through the crowd, his heart hammering in his chest. "Move aside," he barked, his voice cutting through the murmurs of the onlookers. He kneeled next to her, his hands shaking. "What happened?" "She fell from the scaffold," one of the workers explained. "We don't have a medic. We were just trying to—" Rian didn't hear the rest. His focus was on the woman's arm, which was clearly broken. He knew enough about basic first aid to recognize that the bone was fractured, and the pain in her eyes was enough to tell him that she was in agony. Without a second thought, he grabbed a piece of fabric from his tool bag and began wrapping it around her arm, splinting it as best as he could. "I'm going to help you," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos in his mind. "Hold still." The woman's breath came in shallow gasps, her silvery eyes locked on his face. There was fear in them, but also something else. Trust. In the hours that followed, Rian carefully tended to the Feralian woman, whose name was Zara. He made sure her arm was properly set, and despite the primitive tools available on Adros 3, he managed to stabilize it. The workers, seeing that Zara was in good hands, slowly dispersed, leaving Rian and the injured woman alone in the dim light of the base's emergency room. Zara looked at him with gratitude, her alien features softening. "Thank you," she said, her voice melodic but strained from the pain. I did not think a human would care for me." Rian, wiping the sweat from his brow, tried to smile, though it felt hollow. "Not all humans are the same. I'm sorry I didn't catch your name." "Zara," she replied softly. "Zara of the Feralian Mining Guild." "I'm Rian," he said, "just a mechanic from Earth." They sat in silence for a moment. Zara's arm was bandaged, her breathing slower now, but the pain was still visible in her face. Rian could see the exhaustion in her eyes, but there was something else there too. A glimmer of strength, a resolve that reminded him of his own broken spirit, the quiet tenacity he had to keep going even when everything felt like it was falling apart. "Why did you help me?" Zara asked suddenly, her voice cutting through his thoughts. Rian hesitated, his heart heavy. He couldn't explain it. He didn't understand it himself. "I've lost someone," he said softly. I don't want to see anyone else suffer the way I did. Zara nodded, as if she understood something deep within him. Loss is difficult, she said, her words carrying a weight of their own. But sometimes we must find a way to heal. To go on. Rian looked at her, the words hanging in the air between them. How do you go on? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Zara met his gaze. One step at a time, she said simply, even when it feels like you're walking through the storm. The next few days passed in a blur. Zara healed under Rian's careful watch, and though she couldn't use her arm, she insisted on helping with the repairs around the mining base. Her resilience was contagious, and soon Rian found himself drawn to her, not just out of pity or obligation, but out of something deeper. A connection he hadn't felt in years. Zara had suffered, too. Her people had been enslaved by the corporation that ran the mining operations on Adros 3. Her broken arm was a reminder of the brutal conditions they endured daily. But through it all, she refused to let the darkness swallow her. One night, as they sat together in the glow of the small fire outside the base, Zara turned to him, her silvery skin reflecting the firelight. Rian, she began, you heal my arm, but I feel that something in you is still broken. I can see it in your eyes. You have suffered a great loss. Rian stared into the fire, the flames flickering as his thoughts spiraled. My wife, she died, he said quietly, in an accident. I couldn't save her. Zara's eyes softened with empathy. She reached out, her good hand brushing against his. You didn't fail her, Rian, she said, her voice gentle. Grief is not something you can fix, but you can learn to live with it. Rian's heart ached. Zara's words resonated with him, like a balm on a wound that had never fully healed. He turned to face her, his eyes searching hers. How do you do it? He asked. How do you keep going when everything inside you feels broken? Zara gave him a small smile, her voice warm with understanding. Because I've learned that healing is not a solitary journey. Sometimes we need help. Sometimes we need others to show us the way. And in that moment, Rian realized that Zara had mended something within him. She had healed his broken heart, not through grand gestures or words, but through her quiet strength and compassion. The emptiness he had carried for so long began to fade, replaced by something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Weeks passed, and the relationship between Rian and Zara deepened. They became inseparable, their bond forged through shared pain and understanding. As Zara's arm healed, they worked together to improve the mining base, making it a safer, more humane place for the workers. Zara, with her wisdom and grace, led by example, showing Rian that even in the darkest corners of the universe, love and compassion could thrive. One day, as the sun set over the icy horizon, Rian took Zara's hand and looked at her with a newfound clarity. Thank you, he said, his voice thick with emotion. For everything. Zara smiled, her eyes soft and full of warmth. No, Rian, thank you. You healed me, too, in ways I didn't know I needed. As they stood there, together in the fading light, Rian realized that the universe was vast and uncertain, but in this moment with Zara by his side, he finally felt whole.